Guys, is there a single chemical that controls the entire hair cycle? Well, I stumbled across this article in the Science Daily called The Chemical Controlling Life and Death in Hair Follicles. And it says a single chemical is key to controlling when hair follicles cells divide and when they die. This discovery could not only treat baldness, but ultimately speed wound healing because follicles are a source of stem cells. So, as far as I know, there are a lot of different processes and chemicals and proteins and whatnot that can impact the hair cycle and hair growth, as well as hair loss, of course. So, I don't know if I agree with this, but let's go into the article and see what it has to say. So, I think this is just repeating the summary. But starting here, it says most cells in the human body have a specific form and function determined during embryonic development that does not change. For example, a blood cell cannot turn into a nerve cell or vice versa. Stem cells, however, are like the blank tiles in a game of Scrabble. They can turn into other types of cells. Yeah, that's absolutely true. A lot of our cells start as stem cells and then they evolve into other cells. I wouldn't call it evolve. I mean, there's probably a better word for that. But they turn into our muscle cells and brain cells and different types of cells, hair cells, that we need to support our bodily functions. And then it says the adaptability makes them useful for repairing damaged tissue or organs. In science fiction, when characters heal themselves quickly from injuries, the idea is that stem cells allowed it, said UC Riverside mathematical biologist and study co-author Qishuan Wang. I think that's how you pronounce it. In real life, our new research gets us closer to understanding stem cell behavior so that we can control it and promote wound healing, Wang said. Yeah, stem cells are already used frequently for wound healing. So yeah, that's absolutely true. This research is detailed in a recent biophysical journal article. And then it says, the liver and stomach regenerate themselves in response to wounds. However, Wang's team studied hair follicles because they're the only organ in humans that regenerates automatically and periodically, even without injury. So that's actually true. So just to give an example, right? If you have some kind of traumatic head injury, like someone, you fall and you hit your head or something, well, all those neurons that you lost in that injury can't be regenerated as far as we know. And so those stem cells essentially die off and they're not replaced. And that's the same thing for a lot of the stem cells that turn into other types of cells in our body. But for hair cells, what happens is they continuously die in the telogen phase, and then they restart the hair cycle in the anagen phase. So those underlying stem cells never die. They just continue to go through this cycle. So as far as we know, they're the only cells that do this, or as far as I know, I should say. And then it says, the researchers determined how a single type of protein, TGF-beta, controls the process by which cells and hair follicles, including stem cells, divide and form new cells, or orchestrate their own death, eventually leading to the death of the whole hair follicle. So TGF-beta is certainly a growth factor that can influence the hair cycle. But I wouldn't say that it's the only growth factor, right? As far as we know, there's a lot of them. There's IGF-1, which I always talk about in my videos. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There's also platelet-derived growth factor, and other growth factors as well that are involved in the entire hair cycle. So while TGF-beta is important, and poorly understood, to be frank, I wouldn't say it's the sole chemical or protein or growth factor that's evolved in the whole process. It says TGF-beta has two opposite roles. It helps to activate some hair follicles to produce new life, and later it helps to orchestrate apoptosis, the process of cell death. Okay. As with many chemicals, it is the amount that makes a difference. If the cell produces a certain quantity of TGF-beta, it activates cell division. Too much of it causes apoptosis. Yeah, and that's the same thing with a lot of these growth factors. It's a matter of how much of it is produced, right? So the same thing with IGF-1. If you have too much IGF-1, that can cause hair loss. And if you have too little of it, that's also known to cause hair loss. So it's about having a healthy balance. But the relationship between different types of growth factors and hair loss and hair growth is honestly very poorly understood. And I think it's good overall that there's current research into how to manipulate potentially different types of growth factors to stimulate hair growth. No one is entirely sure why hair follicles kill themselves. Some hypotheses suggest it is an inherited trait from animals shedding fur to survive hot temperatures or trying to camouflage. Okay, I mean, I don't know anything about that, but sure. Even when a hair follicle kills itself, it never kills its stem cell reservoir. When the surviving stem cells receive the signal to regenerate, they divide, making new stem cells, and then develop into a new follicle. Yep, so we just discussed that as well. If scientists can determine more precisely the way TGF beta activates stem cell division and how chemical communicates with other important genes, it might be possible to activate follicle stem cells and stimulate hair growth. Yeah, but you know what already has been shown to stimulate the production of TGF beta? Take a guess. It's microneedling, and that's the reason why it works for so many people. It's not just a vasodilator. It's not just something that stimulates the wound healing process. It doesn't just bring blood up to your scalp and follicles. Of course, it does that as well, but it also has been proven to stimulate the production of all different kinds of growth factors, including TGF beta. And so, few people know this, but that's a key reason why microneedling is so successful for hair growth. So I'm glad research is being done on that, but there are already a couple of different solutions out there that are proven to stimulate TGF beta for the hair follicles. And then it says, because many animals, including humans, possess skin covered with hair, perfect wound healing would require regeneration of hair follicles. Being able to more precisely control levels of TGF beta could also one day cure baldness, which bothers millions of people all over the world. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that would cure baldness. It would certainly help to understand how to manipulate it, but there are a lot of factors that can cause someone to go bald. And of course, one of the key reasons is DHT. And I think the relationship between DHT sensitivity, and different types of growth factors is poorly understood. So there needs to be more research done there. But overall, I would say this article is a little bit clickbaity. There's a lot of research already done on some of these growth factors and some ways that are proven to stimulate these growth factors. And I wouldn't say TGF beta is sort of the single chemical responsible for the hair cycle. But let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed this type of content, please like, subscribe, comment below, and let's make it a discussion. All right, thanks everyone.